It's an honor to speak here again, especially as I will be covering a topic that has been the core of my research for the last 4 years, user onboarding. My name is Claudiu Murariu, and I'm the co-founder of InnerTrends, a data science platform for product teams. What I will be presenting today is the results of all the research we've done around analyzing those users on how we define the onboarding process, how we prioritize it, and how we optimize it. So let's get started. The user onboarding is not a process that sits by itself. It's part of a bigger picture of what we call actionable metrics. So the 5 actionable metrics that we always look at are acquisition, activation or onboarding, revenue, retention, and referral. Onboarding is about activation. How do users get to first value? So that is what we are going to be covering today. Let's start with the first one. Define the onboarding process. Many people or many companies call it the wow moment, the aha moment. But these are abstract names. They sound good, they sound sexy, but they are very abstract. And as we don't have microphones in people's computers to listen when they go, wow, aha, in order to say they're onboarded or not, we need to have a much more structured way in getting to define what the onboarding process is. So let's look a bit at the onboarding flow. Somebody comes to your website and they discover your product. They get to see, they get to see the promise of your product for the first time. When they believe in it, they say, oh, this sounds interesting, it's something that I might need. They show sign up intent and they go to the registration page or to the pricing to learn more and so on. When the next stage for them is to create an account. Now, after they create an account, everything they want to do is to get to that promise that you made on your home website as quickly as possible. So, when you ask how many of your new accounts experienced the promise of your product for the first time, you're actually asking how many onboarded users you have. And if you don't know the answer for this question, you don't know how many users are onboarded. So, do you know how many people experience the promise of your product for the first time? The next step is to ask, what are the mandatory steps that people need to go through in order to get to that promise of your product? And voila, you have your onboarding funnel. And in your onboarding funnel, there is one major element that you want to pay attention to. Where do you have your biggest drop-off? Is it at the top of the funnel, which means you have a promise issue? You made a promise, people signed up, and they expected something very different when they got there? Or if your drop-off is towards the end of the onboarding process, you have a product problem. Like you qualified people, they went step by step, it was clear for them, but maybe the work was too much. Maybe you are asking too much. Maybe things are not clear. It's crucial to answer this question before you go into any optimization stage. Where do people drop off in the onboarding process? The beginning, where you have a qualification problem, or towards the end, where you have a product problem? So let's go to the next section of our presentation, which is what is the impact of a good onboarding process? Because revenue starts where onboarding ends. People that are not onboarded don't really have a reason to buy your product. First, let's look at retention and the relationship between onboarding and retention. Now, most companies I know out there where I talked with, when they talk about retention, they look at the cohorts of the new accounts that are created. So how many accounts get created in a typical month, and out of them, how many return week by week or month by month? And we believe that's the wrong way to look at retention. Here we have 2 retention curves. the retention of the people that finished the onboarding process and the retention of people that did not finish the onboarding process. When you report retention to new accounts, you actually get an average of these two curves, which are not an accurate image of your real retention. People that are not onboarded have no reason to return and use your product. Your real retention is the retention of your onboarded accounts. So often companies come to us and say, we have a retention problem. Our retention is so low, it's 5%, something is wrong. After I show them this data, they realize they don't have a retention problem. Their retention is actually great, but only 20% of their users end up onboarded. So that's why their retention looks that bad when they look at it as the retention of the new accounts. But now at least they know what they need to fix in order to get more people as customers. And talking about customers, we always report the decision to buy, the conversion rate from creating an account to upgrading to a paid plan by looking also at the onboarding data. So here we have 369 people creating an account, 173 of them got onboarded. 78 upgraded to a paid plan after onboarding. So the vast majority, more than 75% of the users upgraded after onboarding. 14 upgraded before onboarding, but they still onboarded. And we have 3, so less than 2% of all the people that paid did it without finishing the onboarding process. That's how important is the onboarding process on getting people to pay. And even more, these free users, I can bet, I will bet with you that they will churn in the next 2 months because they never got any value from your product. They never got to the promise of your product. So the easiest thing you can do to optimize churn is actually drill down on those free users, find out who they are, call them, and help them finish the onboarding process. They already paid. All you need to do is help them, and you will decrease the chances that they will churn in the next 2 months. Let's go to the next section, which is prioritize and optimize the onboarding process, because as we've just seen, your growth depends on it. The first thing is about prioritization. So we want to make sure that we optimize the process where we lose most users. So there are 4 processes that we analyze. Acquisition, how many people visit the website, how many initiated signups or have sign-up intent. Basically, the promise made them look further, made them look, I might want to try this product. I want to see the pricing, I want to see the registration process. And then how many of those created an account? Our expectation is to have 10 to 20% sign-up intent of all the website visitors and more than 50% conversion rate from sign-up intent to creating an account. Now, after we create an account, we want to know how many get to the promise of your product. That is your onboarding rate. We expect it to be, for especially B2B companies, between 40% and 60%. If you have it under 40%, you might have a problem, a big problem. If you have it over 60%, onboarding is probably not your biggest growth opportunity. Retention. Again, we report retention only for the onboarded users. It makes no sense to look at retention for the people that are not onboarded. We expect it to be at 60% in the first week and 40% at least to become stable. This retention curve gives you a very good growth rate in the future. Last but not least, what is the conversion from onboarding to paid and to other business goals? We expect at least 20% of the onboarded users to become paying customers. Now, after you've looked at all this, if your biggest problem is that you are losing people in the onboarding process, which I have to say is the main problem for most of the SaaS businesses we've worked with, then it's time to go to optimization. And to optimize, we need to understand. The first thing we always want to say is, what is the conversion rate, the onboarding rate between paid traffic and non-paid traffic? The reason we analyze this is because paid traffic is where you control the promise the most. So if your onboarding rate for paid traffic is lower than the onboarding rate for non-paid traffic, it means you are not doing the right promises. You need to work more on those. You should get at least the same onboarding rate between paid and non-paid, or even higher. Again, you control that. You should get good companies that optimize their acquisition channels, get higher onboarding rates between paid traffic and non-paid traffic. Of course, here you can also be the case of getting unqualified users through. But again, it's a problem of the promise. You will get unqualified users if you make the wrong promise to the wrong people. The next question we want to understand is, how long does it take to onboard new users? Because it's important to know if onboarding lasts minutes, hours, days, or weeks. That's the window of opportunity you will have to optimize your onboarding process, to send emails, to do product tours, to try to get people back. We then go into trying to get we get our hands dirty and optimize the onboarding process. And the first question we always dive into is, what is the behavior of people between onboarding steps? Once we discover the step where we are losing most users, we want to see what's happening between that step and the next one. And we look at every single activity that is done between those two steps, and we categorize them in 3 buckets. Actions that are specific to accounts that reach the next step, actions that are specific to accounts that drop off, and actions that are not specific to either of the groups. Now here, if we design an action to help people and it's in this category, it means we didn't do a good job. We need to go redesign it until it gets to in the first category. With this report, we know exactly what we need to focus on inside the product in order to get more people through. And then we start building our customers start building features or redesigning them, or product tours or email sequences based on this data. Talking about emails, the last question is, how do emails influence your onboarding process? Most of you know we sent 100 emails for getting people during the onboarding process. 20 of them opened an email and 5 of them finished the onboarding process. We have a great conversion rate there. Let's continue doing that. Well, we decided to look at the conversion rate of the people that don't open the emails. Because if you are right, it means that their conversion rate will be lower than of the people that do open the emails. And as we can see in this example, and as I've seen it in so many scenarios, or so many SaaS businesses, people that don't open emails convert better. So this report will tell you how good your email is performing in the onboarding process. Now, as a quick recap, an account is onboarded only when they experience the promise of your product. That promise is not defined by data, it's defined by your marketing materials. And all your growth metrics are insightful only if reported in relation to the people that get to that promise, from acquisition to retention and revenue. If you do have any questions, feel free to write to my email address or contact me over LinkedIn. I'll gladly address them. Again, thank you, and I wish you high onboarding rates.